Tonight's video is about natural language and comparing data structures. Just another small step forward for the WantWare project. So we're going to flip over to two toy figures, and they're made. We've already made them. We'll talk about how you make data structures, like over here, raw data that you might be saving, as well as any visuals you use to see it another time. Tonight we're just thinking about summaries and comparison and how to understand. Yes, these little guys raise their hand and make their eyes bigger based on noise, which is why there's no music in tonight's video. So on this side, we have, and this is just showing you that it's, is active. You can see that that's the same one linked, so when we switch around, you know who we're looking at. Right now, the summary for this is just, it's a toy figure because it's the default. That's how I made it. It doesn't have to be 50%, but it's what I picked for simplicity. And if I change something like I normally might, grow the head a little bit, 68, 70%, you'll see that some adjectives come in. Silly adjectives. I pick them with my kids. Pinhead. So again, hopefully this is not upsetting anyone. These are toys, no real human bodies, no dysmorphia, just ideas. Now, I stuck an adjective, it's got a number, and the summary is going to have what's different from the default. So if I change where the grin is, or I make the eyes little tiny dots or really big, you'll notice it pops up here, and that I get a summary that shows me just what's different than the default. Why is this valuable? Because we all look at tons of data, whether you're comparing medical records or you're a programmer like me looking at the changes you made in your code from yesterday, or somebody that's just revising their notes or scanning through web pages or whatever you might do. Differences between stuff that's mostly the same is important. And if something is noisy, it's always pretty different. Like, let's say these arms, they are moving. Let's say I set the default real low over here. You'll notice nothing shows up because I chose that. I chose to say that's not going to be part of a summary. And I picked mouth, eyes, plastic, hands, and the torso to be the things that are going to show up. Now, if I switch to some of these pre-made ones, you'll see each time a new little summary appears for them, always relative to the default. Now, let's say I go back to this default. The other thing we can do, these are two different ideas. One is summaries, and the other one is comparisons. And this is our compared figure. And it's only going to show me what's different to some other focus point. In this case, it'll be this default over here, but it could be anything. It could be what's different between that and the Zach figure. And the Zach figure has a big head, so you see over here it says typical head. Actually, in fact, let's stay with the default for a second. Let me make the head much bigger, and you'll see that that is the only part that's registered because that's what's different than whatever we're comparing to. So tiny hands, different plastic tint, let's say big eyes, sure, and it gives me those summaries. So let's get rid of that noise. Here this is showing me, hey, just a toy figure. Whenever I say or type toy figure, I'll get this based on the default. If I say compared to this guy, I want this particular configuration, this sentence, if you will, that's what I'll get. Let's go back for a second. Let's say maybe we change this one here. Even if this is what we know to be our quote baseline from these little settings, I still get a sentence because it's compared. And if I flip over here, if I'm typing in big head, extra small, auburn plastic, beaming grin, that's what I'll get for that piece of data. It's ignoring the arm stuff, it's ignoring the other information. And seeing that we're at 4 minutes and 30 seconds, let me just wrap up the concept here as for any data structure, whatever it is you might be working with in a computer, you're going to have tons of info. And we can automatically, without needing programming, without having to come in, we can always say, hey, here's a summary. Hey, here's a comparison to somebody else. Quick and easy in the natural language that you pick. I picked things like peepers and typical head. Somebody else might define that differently or pick different language or whatever the style might be. But the notion is let's reduce the friction to understanding. Let's make it faster to figure out what you're interested in, what's different, or what's what's the summary here. And that's our video for tonight. Thanks.